O'clock. Jay Dobyns is with us, and we're going to talk about this gun runner situation in the ATF. But first I want to ask, ATF, my limited experience with this is when the Waco, Texas thing went down, and this is long before I ever thought the government ever did anything wrong. I grew up thinking the government did everything right. You know, one of those good boys who just like to root for the good guys, and I'm sure we all did that, right? And I was in a small TV station, and I was running a newsroom in Maine, and one of the 7 survivors or whatever lived in that town. We brought him on the studio. We had a great interview with him, and I started realizing these guys don't seem all that bad. Like, they seem like pretty nice people. And I started realizing there's a gray area, and they were showing videos of the ATF apparently being too aggressive, all this kind of stuff. That was one of the first times in my life I ever had questions like that. Then you mentioned you were heavily involved with Oklahoma City bombing. They keep talking about a second suspect, second guy, this thing. How much of the truth do we ever get in these situations? Do you think, I mean, I'm not saying that it's false flag stuff, but there's more to these things that meet the eye generally, true?
Well, I was on the job in February of '93 when the Waco raids took place.
Really?
To think that every person in that compound was evil or a criminal, no, that's not the case. ATF was there. They were justified in being there. They had a valid warrant to enter that premises. The mistakes were that the tactical errors in going in there when the operational plan had been compromised, had been foiled. ATF leadership refused to accept the information that they were getting from the field, from the guys with their boots on the ground, and they basically walked dozens of ATF agents into an ambush, which resulted in, 4 agents being dead, dozens of agents being torn up, dozens of agents being mentally and emotionally scarred from what happened that day. And did ATF make mistakes there? Absolutely they did. And the people that made them lied about them, covered them up, and slid away with no accountability, which goes back to, the second call we took. Accountability in government is what people want. I think America is a very forgiving society when you say, I made a mistake, I had an error in judgment, I did the best I could given the circumstances that were in front of me, but it was a mistake, and I'll try not to do it again, and I'll try to learn from the lesson that just took place. But when you make a mistake and everybody knows you made a mistake, and then you avoid it and dodge it and try to point the finger at somebody else, as forgiving as we are, we're as equally as unforgiving for that type of approach.
Yeah, and you can see how that happens. All right, before we get into the big story, the last one, Oklahoma City. You were very involved in that, and you guys helped keep that from a bigger tragedy.
Absolutely. The agent that got fired this week, Vince Shefflu, was my partner. And after Timothy McVeigh blew up Oklahoma City, we were sent to Las Vegas and into that area to infiltrate the crew that had helped train him and inspire him to go to Oklahoma City and blow up the Murrah Federal Building. In the process of that, Vince Shefflu and myself infiltrated a plot to blow up 3 Las Vegas casinos. The suspects had blueprints of the casinos. We walked through them with them. We met with them many times. We tried to actually talk them out of the plan. They refused to be talked out of it. We told them, do you realize that hundreds of innocent people are going to die if this is carried out? Mothers are going to die. Babies are going to die. Elderly people are going to die. The guy pulled his shirt back, and he had a black heart tattooed on his chest. He pulled his shirt back. He said, you see that tattoo? That's a black heart. I don't care. I don't care who dies. We're going to do Oklahoma City all over again. And ultimately, we reversed sold him C4 devices concealed as picnic baskets and briefcases that he was going to place around these casinos and try to bring those casinos down on people who were just in Las Vegas to enjoy a vacation.
Wow, unbelievable. Not that much gets public about that. All right, look, your friend and the guy that you just said that you worked with on these undercover operations just quit. You say you've been in touch with this guy, or got fired, I should say. You've been in touch with this guy during this whole thing. He made a brave decision because you were already classified as a whistleblower on the ATF. He knew the hassle you were getting, and yet he still decided to go forward. Are you proud of this guy?
I think bravery takes a lot of different forms, and Vince Shefflu did the job in a brave way when he was working the streets. He went out, he got face-to-face, toe-to-toe with violent criminals, and he bought guns, and he bought drugs, and he bought bombs, and he met with murderers and rapists and extortionists and with the predators in society, which takes a brave man to do. But bravery and heroism can also be seen in other ways, and by standing up and speaking the truth and making sure the truth is told when you have your personal life at risk, your professional career at risk, your finances at risk. That's also a brave act, and that's what he's doing, and ATF is making him pay the price for telling the truth. They don't want the truth out there, and in order to shut him up, they're going to try to take his job.
Jay, people must come up to you and say, come on, man, you're a streetwise guy. This is the way the world works. The people at the top are going to do things their own way, whether you believe in shadow governments or just that there are powerful people that don't want to lose their positions, or maybe the power went to theirs. This is the way it works. Just move on. Why don't you just move on?
It is the way of the world, but we don't have to accept it. We don't have to take it. We don't have to let cover-ups and stonewalling and whitewashing and frame jobs take place without saying anything about it. That is the way of the world. The world, a lot of times, is run and conducted by people that have something less than the ideal ethics and morals. I get that. Absolutely agree with that. But we don't have to take it. We don't have to sit back and let it happen. We can say something and try to do something about it.
Now, I would imagine people are saying, tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. I mean, back in the old days, if someone was a police officer in town and they were going to infiltrate the drug world or whatever, they would make believe that they were rolling a joint or something, but they never really participated. I'm guessing when you did the Hells Angels thing, when you do some of these undercover, you become that. I mean, you've done illegal drugs with them, right? Or do you have to not do it? How does that work?
No, you know what? That's a common, urban myth, I think. I was very good at what I did when I made my run at the Hells Angels. I had every dodge and every tactic, in my bag of tricks to avoid those things. I can get on a polygraph, I can raise my right hand, and I can say I did not do drugs with those guys. I did not have sex with their women and their informants and the people that they were putting on me. I did not commit crimes with them. I observed a lot of those things. I observe those things take place, but as a law enforcement officer, if you're willing to touch your toe over that line, and it's not a thin line, there's a very thick line between right and wrong. If you're willing to touch your toe over that line, then how are you any better than the people you're investigating? You're doing the same thing that they're doing, and that's the quickest defense for any defense attorney is inappropriate or outrageous government conduct, where a defense attorney will defend their client by saying, look, my guy might be bad, my guy might have done these things wrong, but the guy investigating him is no better than the person on trial. We cannot let that happen. We absolutely do everything we can to avoid having to defend that allegation, and that's just how we do our business. The people that do what I do for a living do it very, very well.
Well, like I say, you got your share of death threats, and I don't mean one or two. You get threats all the time still, saying, threats against your family. I won't even repeat some of the things I've seen. Threats against you on a daily basis. You try to live in a town this small where people know who you are. You're a celebrity in football already. Your life can't be too much fun, Jay. How do you do this?
I do not live in fear. I refuse to be forced out of my town. This is my town, okay? I'm not the bad guy here. I'm not the guy that was committing crimes here. This is my town. And I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to hide in a cave like Bin Laden and wait for someone to shoot a rocket at me. It's not happening. Do I have concern? Absolutely I have concern. These guys that don't like me, they're the masters of intimidation. And in today's world, you simply can't hide. Unless you're a CIA officer that has all the backstopping and protections that are afforded those guys, anybody can find anybody in this world. And so I live with concern. I don't put myself in a bad spot. I don't want a problem. I'm not looking for a problem. I do everything I can to avoid a problem. And, but if one is absolutely forced upon me, then I'm prepared, mentally and emotionally and physically to deal with it.
Look, I've sat with presidents. In this studio, we've had senators. We've had every major guy you can think of, always concerned about security. Jay in the Toros Clubhouse Fitness, and he has cameras, and we're always worried about that. You, more than anybody, you have to worry about, because even at the book signing, we saw Hells Angels guys come to watch you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them actually came up and shook hands and got a book signed. Not every person in that club is my enemy. I have dialogue with guys in that club. When you do what I did for a living, working undercover, and you befriend people, and you gain their trust, and you gain their loyalty, and then ultimately you betray that, and you tell their dirty little secrets before the public and before a judge and a jury, man, it creates huge animosity. It creates vindictiveness. I understand that. That's the cost of doing business. That's part of doing what I do for a living, is knowing, hey man, people are going to be hateful to you, and they're going to take action to get their payback.
All right, we're going to take our last break. There are people online, and I want to get to you. I will get to you. Do not leave. We're going to have Jay for only about 10 more minutes. It's 9:47. You're listening on AM 1030 KBOI. The Voice will be back.